The Bode signature is gigantic.
This part reminds me of the QST, where it kind of shovels out right here before coming back in again. That seems pretty unique. Cool. Pretty decent rise in the tail, actually.
Okay, let's see how they do. Okay. Today, we're gonna be talking about the Peak skis. Now, the whole reason these skis were sent to me is because Bode had seen one of my previous videos being skeptical, and he said, hey, game on, you test them, I wanna see your real reaction to them. These skis aren't bad, they're good skis. They're also not life-changing, they're not industry-changing. They do some cool things, but they are still a little rough around the edges. They still have a few things that need to be fine-tuned. And so I think that the way that I've seen Bode talk about it on a lot of his videos or a lot of Peak's kind of marketing is very embellished. And right, that's any marketing. But these are specifically kind of overstretched in what they're capable of and where they thrive. And I think that it does them an injustice. I didn't hate these. I didn't love them. I think they have a lot of potential. And so when I'm talking about this stuff, it's not because I want Bode's company to fail or Peak skis to fail. I'm saying this from a place of love that I think these skis are really capable of breaking into the industry and serving a really important role, but they gotta get some of this stuff dialed in. So first off, let's talk about the first thing I would change with these skis. When you look at them online, this finish looks like it's brushed metal. It looks like stainless steel. It's supposed to kind of look like an appliance. In my opinion, it looks like it's kind of emulating a high-end ski like a Stokely. And I would say that that was the first thing that was really disappointing. These skis do not in fact have a metal top sheet. It's kind of more fiberglass top, but it's kind of more like brushed, like almost like a finished wood. And I think that they could have changed the colors or done something differently because a lot of the skis, including the current gen, are made to look like they're made out of metal. And if I was a consumer and I bought these, and maybe I didn't do the most research, but I just kind of impulse bought these, and this showed up and it's not metal, I would be really disappointed. I don't think it matters that it's not metal, but I think that the way that they're advertised makes it seem like a premium kind of metal. And I think right off the bat, you're getting off on the wrong foot for consumers. So I would change that. I would change the graphic to make sure you could go with a lot more like natural wood textures and wood finishing. There's a lot of different colors and combinations you could use. Find a local like wood finisher, ask them for kind of paint mixtures. I'm sure that they'd be happy to help you with that. But make it look more like a natural finish rather than this kind of like metal looking top sheet, because it's not metal and it doesn't feel like metal, and that's okay. But it takes something where you're spending a lot of money for a premium product and first impressions are everything, and it can feel non-premium compared to the metallic look that they have online. That's just some free feedback. I don't really care about appearances, but I'm trying to be productive here. God, the tail also kicks out once in a while. Like the shape of it doesn't run that smooth. Tips on this feel pretty good. So on paper, these have a 25-meter radius, and what they've said online is that, oh, well, that's just what it is on paper, but it doesn't actually feel that way. As someone who skied on these today, I felt every bit of that radius. That was a bunch of baloney. These take a long time to turn, and that's fine. Like for that length and that width, it's totally to be kind of expected, but don't say that it doesn't feel like it, oh, because of the keyhole technology. No. You feel the radius on these, they take a long time to turn. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. The other thing I want to talk about is the keyhole technology. I did feel it a little bit, okay? And when I feel it is when it kind of gets loaded, and if you get into kind of more breakaway snow, this ski does feel surfy. It's kind of able to like flex in a gentle way to give you a little bit more buoyancy. So if you're kind of like thinking about like surfing, when you're kind of loading it up, it's got a little bit more buoyancy and a little bit more give, which feels good in the snow. So the keyhole technology is real, but it is vastly overplayed in the marketing. And I know every ski company does this, but The way that Bode talks about it, like this keyhole technology is completely changing the game, it's not. I mean, he's been saying that since the atomic golf ball top sheets. It's cool. It's definitely doing something that feels good, but it's not a huge part of the ski's personality. I'd say it maybe contributes about 10% of the ski's total personality and what you feel underfoot. So it's not total baloney, but it gets a little baloney-ish. The keyhole is nice, but you have to really search to feel it, and it's not as life-altering as it's kind of been marketed. I do think it's cool, but I want to be honest about it.
Okay, this feels good. They're doing something.
So now that we've covered those two big things, let's talk about the good. And I do think that there are people that will really like this ski, okay? So let's talk positive and then we can talk about the drawbacks after. When it's good, it's really good. Like when you have time to load up the ski, get all the way on the top of your boots and kind of lay it over, it feels clean, it feels effective, it's a beautiful turn, okay? The other thing I want to say is that it does really well in sticky snow. I got into some sticky snow, it rained and then snowed. It did awesome in that. I think that this ski could very well be a contender for that kind of Vocal Mantra, Nordica Enforcer, cut into the East Coast, Pacific Northwest. I think this ski has the ability to kind of go after some of those types of skiers, and I think it could do a really good job. So it did phenomenally in the slushier snow. It did not get hung up on it. I think if you had like a spring skiing day or a wet snow day, this ski would be excellent, probably a go-to for me. I also felt pretty good off trail. It wasn't great, but it was still pretty good. When it's going either like slow for short radius turns, it's an excellent ski. When it's going really fast and you're making open super G turns, it feels great. It feels really strong. It feels like it's supporting you. It's giving you all of your energy out of the tails. It can really rocket you out of those turns. It's got good carving when you get it right. The problem is, and now we're gonna talk about the negative, the problem is that the turn has to be perfect and it has to be very wide open. That's why I was talking about the large turn radius. You have to have almost a long super G turn in order for the ski to feel good. You have to have a lot of momentum for it to feel clean and on edge. If you're not in that spot, that's where it starts to feel a little bit rough around the edges.
Yeah, let's try a little turns. Not bad. Kind of do some hip movement. Yeah, they don't want to do that. They want to carve edge to edge. Oh, see? I gotta be honest, these skis are a little rough around the edges. The tails don't quite carve off the edge of the turn. They're getting you 90% of the way there. But these are in the same camp as the vocals where you need to have hip placement to finish off your turns. You can't just do it with pressure, which is what I prefer. Not necessarily something bad about the ski, but just so you kind of know what vein the ski is in. It's kind of got that like roll up your hips to get the ski initiated. You can't do it completely with pressure. You can do most of it with pressure, but it needs a little bit of angulation for its initiation. And they feel like they're just missing a gear. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if it was a car, I feel like it has first through second and fourth through fifth, but it's missing that third gear, which on paper doesn't sound bad, but can feel clunky when you end up needing it.
While we're talking about the bad, I don't love the design. It's got kind of this hard-hitting, strong carving, but then it also has kind of a wider build and a big difference in the hourglass. So it's kind of got this surfy build going on, and it feels like it has a little bit of an identity crisis. Like it's trying to be a Salomon QST, but also trying to be a Vocal M6 Mantra, and it does some weird things in between where it doesn't do either of them perfectly. I think they need to kind of pick a lane. If they're gonna go for a crud cutter, really do that, because it's a good ski for that, but there are parts of the ski being surfy where it slows itself down, and vice versa, where it's so heavy that it doesn't quite get that sweet surfy feeling that you get out of the QST. It feels to me like there were multiple people designing this, and they just couldn't quite align on a vision. I don't know what went into designing the ski, but that's how it feels. It feels like too many cooks in the kitchen. When I'm talking about the negatives, I think that I'm really passionate about this because I'm frustrated because it could be a really great ski and it has some really good ideas, but it just needs to kind of polish those ideas and stay focused. Now, let's talk about this ski's Achilles heel, the part of the ski that I really did not like. The tail of this ski. The tail is such a nightmare. It grabs onto things that it really should not. It has no business being this wide and this up and just in the way. It really destroys the ends of some of the turns. The good thing is that you can kind of shoot off of it and it does give you some energy, but it's more of a hindrance than a help. Bode sent me an email saying like, hey, please, bring the bindings 2 clicks forward from the factory default just to kind of get a different feeling. And I did that. And I got what he was saying because it felt good for short radius turns. But the amount of hazard that these tails added when I did that was awful. It took something that I already really didn't like about these skis and made it worse. I did try it. I, moved them 2 clicks forward, but it made these tails an even bigger hindrance. These need to be figured out because they make the ski feel sloppy and they really get in the way more than they should. This felt like an East Coast skier trying to figure out West Coast skiing, and it didn't feel clean and it didn't feel good. Someone needs to look at these tails because they really got in my way more than they helped anything. Going back to the good, if you care about dampness, these are really good. Some people really that's their priority is dampness, and if that's you, these skis have that in spades. I think they do a really good job being damp. My only problem is the consistency of the turns, but for some people, this may feel phenomenal. They're blasting out of turns, they feel awesome, but when they're bad, when you kind of are in the middle ground where you don't have quite enough room to make a super G turn and you're not quite making little slalom turns, this ski doesn't feel good. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility in its turn shape, and when it's bad, it feels really bad. And my problem with the ski, honestly, is that it doesn't feel like it has the consistency where I know what I'm gonna get out of the turns. I can charge them, I can do all of that, but I'm not getting a consistent turn, and it makes it really hard to know. I honestly had to spend a ton of time skiing on them, trying to figure out how to get a consistent turn, and I never felt like I got that out of these skis. I do think that Bode and the Peak team are onto something. I think that they could make a really good ski that would serve a lot of people, but this ski doesn't quite hit that mark, and it kind of gets in its own way.
Right. Now I'm doing what Bode suggested, which is moving these up 2 spots. Okay, 330 here. Okay, Bode, let's see if that makes a difference. Okay, first run with the bindings put forward 2 notches. Bode sent me an email asking me to do this, so I'm gonna try that out. It's still okay. They shoot you out a little bit more, but that clunky tail feels even clunkier.
So for me, I would say carving, it could be like an 8, but carving also in the medium turns can be like a 5 sometimes. It just depends. I think overall, I'm gonna give these skis a 7 out of 10. I think they're good skis. They're better than Volcal Deacons. They're better than Nordic Enforcers, hands down. These are a good ski, but they need more polish. They need more refinement. And they're not as good as a K2 Mindbender. They're not quite at the point of a Volcal Mantra, but they have potential. I think you guys should keep going, keep making these. And I think in the coming years, once this gets polished down, this could be a really great ski. And currently, if you're somebody who cares about dampness and crud cutting, it's a great option. Overall, I gotta give it a 7 out of 10. There's a lot of room to grow here. Let's talk about the Peak skis. This has been a really hard review to do. Honestly, this ski is really hard to put a number on because when it feels good, it feels like an 8 out of 10. There are times where you load this ski, get it in the sweet spot, and it just sends you through the turn. It feels awesome. It's like a powerhouse. It goes great through crud, but there are times where this ski skis like a 6, even a 5. This tail design, I had times where I was carving and I could feel the tail grabbing against the snow, and it made for an awful feeling. When these skis are dialed in, when you get them down the fall line and you get them loaded perfectly, they feel great. Like on Hero Snow, you're gonna feel like the best skier on the mountain. But when they don't, when you have to wash out a turn, when you don't have that perfect radius, these feel clunky. This feels like two people were designing a ski. The first person designed a really beautiful ski. It's heavy, you know, it's bulky, it kind of powers through things. And then there was a second guy who like cut around it and tried to make it an all mountain powder ski. And I don't know who did what, but the second guy made a really rough cut. This ski is really inconsistent. It's not consistently good, it's not consistently bad, it's just all over the place. Sometimes it's sending you through everything. It's making you go fast, it's feeling good, you feel powerful in these skis. And then other times, you're like, what in the heck is going on? Why can't I get the turn to initiate? It's coming down the fall line, it's not hooking in time. If you have anyone else on the trail that's gonna mess up your line, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't have a lot of turn diversity. These radiuses feel long. This feels like almost like a large GS ski. It does not give you a lot of maneuverability off the trail. I felt like it took a long time to turn. So I don't know. I think, to be honest, a 7 out of 10. I think that there's something here. There's something here that wants to be skied and that is a real powerhouse, but the overall design, the width, the time it takes to go edge to edge, the material, the lack of like finesse and consistency in the material, the design on the tail specifically, I don't want Peak to give up. I think that they've got a good ski. The problem is they're selling it like it's a perfected ski, and this feels like a ski that's still in development, and I wouldn't want to be the person buying them. I mean, these skis retail for almost $1,100, maybe $1,090, and I think that when you add in that value, they're not there. These are still very much a rough draft of a good ski. Now, if you like that kind of heavy, thick ski, you might really like this. I'm sure Bode, like the way that he skis, the ski makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's got a lot of power out of the tails. It's kind of got, if you're washing out your turns, you're not going to enjoy it. Obviously, he's a great skier. But Bode, I think you needed to have more people ski on these because the tails feel awkward and clunky, and there's no excuse for a ski this expensive. I think when you add in the value, it's probably closer to a 6.5 just because it's very expensive and it's not a refined ski. It's not metal like it looks in the top sheet. The keyhole, I think, is more or less baloney. I didn't really feel it. I felt it was a little bit surfy when you kind of loaded up the turn, and I think that that was the keyhole, but it's not this revolutionary thing. I think that this ski needs to be a little bit humbled because it's making all of these claims that's changing the game, that's going to be the only ski you need, and it's not. It's a pretty good ski for a specific type of person, but it's not there yet. This is not an $1,100 ski in my opinion. So that's what I'm gonna say. On a good turn, I was having a blast. I was ripping through it. I felt, man, 8 out of 10 easy. But then if you have some turns where you have to wash out the turn at all, or if the ski doesn't catch, or God forbid you feel that tail drag, it's a 6 out of 10. And if I had gone off of Bode's suggestion to move the bindings forward, that's like a 5 out of 10. But I'm just gonna go off of the factory mount. I think whoever was designing these needs to do a couple more drafts. They need to fix a few things. I think maybe the narrower width would probably be a better experience, but I don't think these are $1,100 worth of ski. I think that this is a very cool prototype. If you like this kind of thing and you want to support a small startup ski company, by all means, go for it. but I'm not gonna blow smoke and say, oh, these are revolutionary. They had some good turns. I had a good time on them. When they're clunky, they're really clunky. This feels like a ski going through puberty. It's got some makings of a really great ski, but it's also like still figuring out its identity. It's still got some real clunkiness to it, and you have to be like really set on wanting a heavy, damp kind of ski. They are damp. That's definitely a good point on them. I'm not gonna blow smoke for Bode and say, oh, Bode, one of the best skiers of all time. Obviously, he's gonna be the best ski designer of all time. No, this doesn't come first time. You gotta fix some of this stuff, okay? And going out and telling everyone that it's the best ski ever made, I get that. You know, I've worked in sales, I understand it, but this ski is not there yet. It's not refined enough. The turn does not finish off cleanly. These tails are so clunky. It's beefy and it can take a long time to initiate. I said in a previous video that I was nervous that if I give it a perfect score or a bad score or whatever. As always, life is a little bit more nuanced. So these are sitting at a generous 7 out of 10. Probably like if we got really granular, it's like a 6.8 to 7, but I'm gonna give them a 7 out of 10 because man, I had some good turns on them. I know it's in there. That's the frustrating part. I know there's a good ski in there, but it needs a little bit more refinement in how quickly it initiates a turn. It needs a little bit more refinement in how gradual the flex is here. The keyhole is not carrying you guys. You guys still have to make a good ski. And really, this tail, I can't say it enough. This tail needs work. This is a clunky tail. It dragged out some of my turns. It ruined turns that would have been 8s and turned them into 5s. You gotta work on it. I know this isn't what Peak Skis wants to hear, but you know what? I'm gonna be honest about what I liked and what I didn't like. These skis are clunky, they're awkward, but if you like a heavy ski and you're willing to shell out that much money and you really want to support Bode Miller, this ski can make good turns. It's capable, but it's kind of having an identity crisis. It can't decide if it wants to be a big powder ski or if it wants to be a race ski, and it kind of does both awkwardly. When you set up some clean like big GS turns, it feels good, but it doesn't consistently feel good. It takes so long to come around in the turn, and if you ever have to wash anything out, it feels like you have big pontoons on your feet. I'm not gonna make friends, and that's unfortunate, but you know what? I'm here to tell you the truth. And it's not as simple as like me just dunking on it, you know, because of Bode Miller. This needs to be fixed in order for me to like easily recommend it. It's not a consistently clean turn. It's either really good or really uncomfortable. And that's why it's getting, for me, a 7 out of 10. And again, I think 7 is generous. It's probably a 6.8 if I was getting really granular. People get up in arms about this stuff. You know, it's like when I talk about the Nordic Enforcer. But you know what? I'm here to tell you the truth. Right? Because I don't care. What do I care, right? Like, Bode Miller and I are going to have dinner later? No, I don't care about that. What I care about is how these skis feel. These skis were frustrating because I know there's a good ski in there, but in this width and this size, it didn't come out fully. The consistency of the flex and the like kind of refinement of how you pressure and build pressure, this ski needed a lot of hip movement, which is fine, that's a style, but it also just was so clunky and it didn't feel like a gradual flex. I don't know if there's pressure because it's an $1,100 ski, $1,090, whatever. I don't know if there's pressure for this to cover a lot of jobs, but it needs to be refined down and do one job really well. Because it's in there. I had the good turns. I know it's capable, but it just needs a little bit more tuning. That's my opinion on Peak skis. Like I said, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. A big shout out to Peak Skis for sending me these. I know it's hard to hear this kind of stuff and be super excited, but I do appreciate you guys taking on the challenge and at least sending me these skis. Other companies don't do that. They just kind of will hide behind. Peak Skis stepped up and sent me these. I think they can be better in the future, but thank you for sending me them. You know, even if I don't love the skis, you know, we had our kind of beef in the past, I give you guys all the credit in the world for at least sending them out. That takes chutzpah. To my audience, if you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps my channel out a lot, but more than anything, you know, it just means a lot to me that you guys even watch my videos. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.